welcome once again to M5's English language learning program, Let's Speak English. I'm Gav Duncan and I'm here on your TV screen to help you learn English. Now, are you sitting comfortably? Yes? Good. And are you ready for today's lesson? Yes? Good. Okay, well let's learn English together. And welcome once again. Welcome to this, the last day of the standard working week. Welcome to Friday, people. Welcome to Friday. Yes, it's here. It's finally here. It's arrived. Friday arrived last night, people. Well, not exactly last night, but just after last night. And it's been sitting in the corner, slowly waking up ever since. It's still not at full power, but the power of Friday grows with every minute until it suddenly implodes at midnight. So, even though we know that Friday is here, there's still plenty of time for us to get ready. And as we know that we're all gorgeous, basically we are, aren't we? Yes. So that means that we don't need too much time to get ready to greet Friday with our best faces on and our best foot forward. No, because when you're working with such high quality material, it's easy, mate. Really easy. All right. We all know that we're gorgeous, so let's move on. We're not like that Greek bloke. What was his name again? Norman, or something like that. It began with an N. I remember that much. Norman? No, nah. It wasn't N-O. It was a different combination. It's not a common name. What was it? Nick? No. Nigel? No, it wasn't Nigel either. Norbert? No. Hang on. Narcissus. That's it. That idiot bloke who fell in love with himself. Narcissus. That's the bloke. The bloke who was so gorgeous that he fell in love with himself. Weirdo. Anyway, we don't need to worry about anything like that. You and I, we all know that we're gorgeous, but, and this is the thing, we've got our heads screwed on the right way. Our feet are planted firmly on the ground and our heads aren't in the clouds. So, unlike that idiot, Narcissus, what was his surname? What? What? No, you'll have to speak up. I can't hear you. What? Are you sure? Yes? Oh, okay. If you say so. Okay, so where was I? Oh, yes. So, unlike that young idiot, Narcissus Christophopolopolopolopolopolopolopoulos. I mean, I knew he was Greek, but really. Anyway, unlike that young idiot, we're gorgeous, but we have our feet planted on the ground. So we're not going to do anything as stupid as fall in love with ourselves. What a daft idea. Anyway, enough about young Christopher whatever his name is. Let's get stuck into today. All right, so where are we? Yes, that's right. We're still looking at will. And now it's time to have a look at how we ask questions with will. Are you ready? Yes? Good. Okay, so we know that will is the form that we use for all the subjects, don't we? Yes! And we also know that the negative form of will not, or won't, is also the same for all subjects, don't we? Yes! Okay. So what about the question form? How do we ask a question using will? Well, how do you think? What normally happens when we want to ask a question? What happens? A couple of things change places, don't they? I am becomes am I. He works becomes does he work. You're lying becomes are you lying? They went becomes did they go? We were eating becomes were we eating? So, what do you think happens to a positive statement like, she will be there at 7:43 p.m? Well, what's going to happen, as if you didn't know, is that the subject, or in this case the subject pronoun, she, is going to change places with the form we're using to talk about the future, will. So instead of the statement form starting with the subject or subject pronoun and followed by will, we're going to change things around by starting with will and following will with the subject or, as in this case, the subject pronoun. So that means that we go from this, she will be there at 7:43 p.m. to this, will she be there at 7:43 p.m? And yes, we remember that we also need to add a question mark to the end. And what else do we need to cover regarding asking questions with will? Well, nothing really. It's very simple, because as we know, will doesn't change for different subjects, and that makes it very easy to use. When we're making sentences about the future using will, we know that we use will for all the subjects. So it's not important if the subject we're using is the first person singular or the third person singular or one of the plural subject forms. They all take will, and we follow will with a verb in the infinitive without to. And as we've just seen, when we ask a question with will, it's just as easy. All the subject forms take will, so all we have to do is swap the subject and will around and follow the subject with a verb in the infinitive without to. I'll be at work tomorrow morning. Will I be at work tomorrow morning? She'll call the gas man later. Will she call the gas man later? It's the twins' birthday next month. They'll be 13. It's the twins' birthday next month. How old will they be? So, as we can see, it's not hard to make positive and negative sentences using will. And in addition, it's not hard to ask questions with will. Now, what else do we have to think about when we think about will? Well, we often use will with the structure I think will. We use this form to say what we think will happen. It's just another way of predicting or forecasting the future. I don't think it'll rain tomorrow. They think that St. Johnston will win the cup. He thinks that his sister will pass her exam. Now, what do you notice about those sentences? Well, in those examples, in two of them, we also used the word that, didn't we? Yes, but it makes absolutely no difference to the meaning of the sentence. I could say, I don't think that it'll rain tomorrow, just as I can say, he thinks his sister will pass her exam. It makes no difference to the meaning of the sentence. Some people prefer to say it one way, some people prefer the other way. That's all. Okay, so we often use this structure with will to say what we think or someone else thinks will happen in the future. And, as I said before, it's just a way of predicting or forecasting the future. Now, although it's very simple to use this structure, we have to be careful when we want to use this structure negatively and when we want to ask questions using this structure. And why is that? Why, do you think? Yes, that's right. When we use this structure with a negative, we have to remember that we have to conjugate the verb to think. We're not dealing with will now. Now we're dealing with the verb to think. Now, what does that mean practically? Well, it means that when we want to use this structure in a negative sense, we have to use the auxiliary verb, the verb to do. And what about asking a question with this structure? Yes, again, when we want to use this structure to ask a question, we have to use the auxiliary verb, the verb to do, to change the structure so that we can use it to make a question. I don't think it'll rain tomorrow. Do I think it'll rain tomorrow? They think that St. Johnston will win the cup. Do they think that St. Johnston will win the cup? He thinks that his sister will pass her exam. Does he think that his sister will pass her exam? So, when we use this structure, which we use a lot, we just have to remember to be a little bit careful. Even if we're using this structure with will, and even if we're talking about what we think will happen, even if we're talking about our predictions for the future, even if we're talking about what people think will happen, we have to remember that this structure has got the verb to think as the main verb. And that means, as we all know, that if we want to make a negative sentence using this structure, or if we want to ask a question using this structure, we have to use the auxiliary verb, the verb to do. And that means that we have to pay attention to the subject we're using. Do we need do or does? Okay, so what else do we need to think about? Well, what about shall? When do we use shall? Well, We use shall as a replacement for will in the first person singular and plural forms. So that means that we can use will or shall for I and we. Only those two. We can't use shall with other subjects, only with I and we. I will be late on Thursday. I shall be late on Thursday. I think we will win. I think we shall win. Peter will be early on Friday. Peter shall be early on Friday. Okay, so you can see where we can and where we can't use shall. But here's the thing. What happens when we abbreviate will and shall? What do they turn into? Yes, that's right. When we abbreviate them, it's impossible to tell the difference. I will be late on Thursday. I'll be late on Thursday. I shall be late on Thursday. I'll be late on Thursday. I think we will win. I think we'll win. I think we shall win. I think we'll win. Peter will be early on Friday. Peter will be early on Friday. Peter shall be early on Friday. Peter will be early on Friday. So, if we always abbreviate, and we almost always do, no one will ever know if we're making our sentence with will or with shall. All right, what else? Well, we know that we use will for future events which we have no control over, or things that we decide spontaneously at the time of talking. We don't use will when we're talking about things that we planned, arranged, or decided to do. When we're talking about things that we planned, arranged, or decided to do before speaking, we use either going to or the present continuous. But we'll get to that soon enough. We often use I will, when we offer to do something or when we decide to do something. Again, here, in these situations, we can see that the decision was spontaneous. We thought about it at the same time that we said it. This suitcase weighs a ton. Here, I'll carry it for you. I'll phone you when I get the information, okay? Okay, thanks a lot. The same is often true of the structure we saw earlier, the structure which uses the verb to think. When we say I think I'll, or the negative version, I don't think I'll, we often say this when we decide to do something. So, once again, we see that when we use will, there is often a connection to the spontaneous idea. We say it at the time we think of it. It's a spontaneous idea. So, we use will. Now, we also use shall I, and shall we, to ask if someone thinks that our idea is a good idea. When we use this form, we're asking if you think this is a good idea or not. The kitchen's on fire. Shall I open a window? Well, it's probably best to leave it. If you open the window, the extra oxygen will make the fire worse, not better. Shall I phone that girl in my class? What? The one who called you an ugly, smelly idiot? No, I don't think that's a good idea. Okay, that's all the time we have for today, so we'll have to wait until next time to carry on with the English we use to talk about future planned events, things we planned, decided, or arranged before in the future. Okay, people, I'm off home now. There's coffee waiting for me, and the fact that it's Friday means that there might be a cocktail later on too. Ah! So, have a great Friday. Hit the shower, and then afterwards, don't stint yourself when it comes to antiperspirant. Bung it on! Make sure that you smell like something nice, not like a homeless dinosaur's armpits. Okay, have a great evening and an even better weekend. I'll see you all on Monday. Have fun, dance like a loony, and if you have some spare time, check out the website. See you later. Bye!